Hello guys, it's Chum Messenger. To have a Beyblade discussion, another one I know, but I wanted to make a video on Hasbro. I have not talked much about Hasbro Burst at all on this channel. I talked about it once, which was actually unboxing this 2-pack that I have the two bays of on screen right now. This is my entire Hasbro Burst collection. So I thought this was going to be kind of a fitting Halloween video, just because, I can't imagine anything scarier than Hasbro Burst. Also, if you want to throw us like in the background tab or something, feel free to. I'm just leaving this image up. I'm not putting any extra images up because when we get into like the later seasons of Burst, I know YouTube has their terms of service. There's like stuff against graphic content, and I feel like I just feel like because of how like mutilated and butchered these bays are, I think it might fall under that. I don't want to get in any trouble here. I think that they are they're just so butchered. I think it might be a little bit graphic, so I'm gonna avoid that. So I feel like there's this misconception about Hasbro Burst bays that they were like ever good. They weren't. So okay, in fairness, Hasbro Burst wasn't always like bad. I still feel like they were always a step down, but they were never like completely awful. So like looking at like the basic layer, dual layer stuff like from season one, uh, I think basic layers made out a lot worse. I feel like just kind of the whole plastic it just seemed like a lot more fogged, which made it look a little bit cheaper. Also, all the printed details on the thing, kind of trying to mimic the stickers, but not in a good way at all. I really just don't think that they look very good. This one, I guess, is a little bit more contentious, but still, I just don't like they just don't look as good in my opinion. They don't look as clean as the Takatomi ones. They also changed teeth to kind of slopes. This is, in my opinion, a pretty neutral change. I feel like slopes are harder to work with than teeth in some ways because, like, I feel like you just get more stuff with teeth. But they are also probably more durable. You don't have to worry about teeth like breaking or shattering, or slopes doing that rather. Teeth might. So I don't know. I feel like it's a pretty neutral change. Sure, I won't complain about that. Discs were fine. Drivers, okay. So I'm not going to cover this for every season, but drivers just consistently. The plastic on them is just like this weird, like really faded looking plastic. You tell that they wanted to use the least amount of dye possible to just minimize, the costs. Make sure that these drivers don't look good at all, just to make sure, they don't have to pay any extra for any extra, paint. Just to make them even look half decent. I mean, all the Takakami ones, well, at least for the most part, were translucent and had tons of different colors. These are all just bad looking. They also didn't make every single driver, but like, it's whatever. Not good though, but like, they didn't do that. I think Orbit was one that they skipped out on. But yeah, basic layers were definitely not great. Dual layers, same stuff. I think the dual layers themselves, like the actual layers, looked better than the basic layers, but like, they're not good either. Again, they have the same problems. It's just less bad. I guess the printed details, they don't look as horrendous because there's less clear plastic, and less clear plastic means that it's less fogged plastic. Overall, I don't think Beyblade Burst was the strongest thing, but it wasn't the worst. Like, there's these issues, but like it's not like the worst thing ever. It wasn't completely terrible yet. I still think that they were a downgrade, and I guess just to kind of answer this question of why don't I get Hasbro bays? From the very start, I just did not think they were as good. I got this 1-2-pack. I didn't like it. I just said, you know what? I'm just going to leave Hasbro Burst alone. I'm not going to touch it, and, well, I didn't. So that's why I don't cover Hasbro. I just never thought they were that good, and they continued to get significantly worse, and upon seeing that, why would I want to ever buy these things? Like, unless if your only option is this, like, you can't even order Takotomi, or, like, you just, like, you can't, like, afford them. I guess it's fair enough, but, like, if you can buy Takotomi, if you have the means to, never purchase Hasbro. But anyway, getting back into like kind of the overall series, I guess. Beyblade Burst Evolution with the Switch Strike line. The Switch Strike line was kind of the adaptation of Beyblade Burst God, and this was definitely the best season. Drivers still had their issues. I think that they made most of the drivers, though, they made out a lot better. Core discs and frames were fine. The layers were pretty good. The main problem is that the God chips were not removable. It's a smaller thing, but still, it's just that extra level of detail that they just did not have. Again, that and kind of just the driver colors. Overall, again, not that bad, but they're still worse. They're still, like, worse products, in my opinion. I know that at least, like, competitively, they were still contentious at this point. They still could compete. But it was still, like, production-wise, you remove this one feature, the drivers still look bad. It's still a worse product, in my opinion, overall. At least a little bit. Moving on to Beyblade Burst Turbo with the Slingshot line. Driver is just gimmicky nonsense at this point. This is just where they went all in with the gimmicks on the drivers. These suck. No one cares. Discs, I believe they did okay with the core discs and frames. I think. I think they were fine. Any of the layers. Gimmicks were kind of whatever. I don't think they did a great job with this. Or in fact, I think they actually removed quite a lot of gimmicks. So, the layers weren't that good here. But the main problem, Chosettes, the adaptation here, what they're trying to adapt. Chosette's bays all had metal. These had no metal. There's the whole idea of, they're trying to keep it balanced. But no, they were just being cheap. They just didn't want to have to produce extra metal on the layer. These were garbage. They were terrible. I don't know why there was still so much defense for these things, honestly. Like, these were genuinely just bad. They were never good. Again, moving on to, Beyblade Burst Rise with the Hypersphere line. Hypersphere drivers, I've heard are fun, and I will give Hasbro some credit. The stadiums, okay, sure, they're fun. You can argue that, sure. I guess these drivers can work with the stadiums, but when that's your entire gimmick and entire lineup of bays for the entire season, it sucks. Discs, they did not make the discs properly. They just kept making core discs. No one cared. They just could not make the proper discs, and it was really unfortunate. And the layers, they did divide the layers, but hey, guess what? No weights. No weights, just chips and bases. Not a lot of gimmicks either. No gimmicks. Yeah, it was just like that, and again, no weights. It just sucked. Again, these were garbage quality and just kept getting worse. Then you get the Beyblade Burst Surge with the Speedstorm line. Drivers, I think that they did a little better here. Color-wise, no, but like in general, I guess. Discs, they did not do the proper sparking system, but they at least tried to do like the chassis disc things, at least for a while. They kind of gave up and just didn't, and just made like more core discs. Like they tried, it wasn't good, but it was like at least slightly more effort, and they gave up. The layers were literally just chips and bases again, instead of like an actual new system, except then they were slightly modified, so they were technically not the same system, but like they seemed like the same things, honestly. Yeah, the layer systems, they just felt like almost the same. They did actually include some of the gimmicks early on, which was nice, and it was actually like a pretty good step for Hasbro. It seemed like they were maybe, making a correct decision. And they just didn't follow through on that. When you get to like some of the later stuff, like Lucifer the End, whatever Hasbro calls it, that thing just looked abysmal. I don't know what happened with that thing. Surge, it started off maybe promising and then just shit itself. I'm just gonna say it like it is. It was a dumpster fire. Speaking of dumpster fires, the next season, Beyblade Burst Quad Drive with the Quad Drive system, adapting DB. Okay, so for the drivers, you go back to, regular drivers, I guess. Now you have some extra grooves in them, so you can have like the armor tips. You can add the extra tip on, now they're like taller and stuff, and they have a new thing. So you just use kind of like the normal drivers as like springs. You could use these as like the actual driver. It's like a weird thing. It was cool for like the first wave. It was like not really cool, but it was like, oh hey, that's an idea. It's at least not like completely gimmicky nonsense, but it was, not that crazy either. But like after that, it's like, okay, again, this is like the entire driver lineup is just this. Who cares? They did decide to actually make DV discs, but they're just way worse. So I mean, there's that. And then the layers, they actually made the proper layer system with the cores, the blades, the armors. The cores have like no detail, no gimmicks. A lot of the cores just don't even have detail. Like they're just like translucent with like a dot of paint. It's kind of just hilarious. And the blades, again, no gimmicks. They look horrendous. They're just terrible. Armors are plastic, so like okay, they have the high and low mode still, and you can I guess the contact points are like higher or lower depending, but like the whole thing about the center of gravity because of where the weight is gone because it's just plastic. This was horrible, and it looks like with kind of DB Part 2, of course, with like BU, the adaptation of that is going to be Quad Strike, and yep, it's just quad drive again. So horrible, basically. So I never understood why anyone defended these bays. Like, I can understand like Burst and like Burst Evolution. Like, I still think they were inferior. Like again, the drivers they looked worse. Like yeah, the whole Godship issue. I think the layers, like basic and dual layers, looked worse. They were worse, but I can at least see why people might want them, and I can understand buying these. They were like fine enough. But since Turbo, why are people defending these? I don't understand it. Turbo and Rise, I feel like people still tried to defend them. Surge, people had their hopes up and tried to defend them. I think by Quad Drive, most people have dropped off, but some people still defend them, and it's like, they're just bad. Even if you try and make the argument that they're just for fun. They're not meant to be, as competitive or as serious as Takatomi. That's not an excuse for, like, subpar, like, not subpar, sub McDonald's quality. Like, these are genuinely just atrocious. And I don't understand why they're, like, still supported at this point. It's just funny. And then, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just funny because it's like, man, these are just bad, and people are defending them. Like I don't know what happened there. Like even the people who take sponsorships, and by the way, people who take sponsorships from Hasbro, I'm not even gonna hate on them or anything because it's like, okay, you want some money, you're trying to make a living, I get it. It's not like having a sponsorship is gonna suddenly sway a ton of people into buying Hasbro. If someone watches that and decides to buy Hasbro, I don't think that they were really too informed on Burst in the first place, and probably we're gonna buy Hasbro anyway eventually. It's not that big of a deal. It'd still be nice if people didn't do it, but like I'm not gonna hate on them for it. But man, even the people who are like doing the sponsorships and stuff, they're even like, yeah, Hasbro. They see some of these things are like okay. Like I feel like a lot of these people are trying to make cases to why Hasbro is like not terrible, not trying to say the products are even like good. It's just like fun. It's just really funny to watch, honestly. Um, yeah, they're just bad. Also, Pro Series. Pro Series is like the one thing that I've seen more debate about whether or not it's good. No, Pro Series sucks. So I considered covering Pro Series for a while. I thought maybe it'd be good to do. You get some more bays. They're like Takuratomi bays. But like, here's the thing. There's a few reasons to why Pro Series is bad. So first up, why is this even a thing in the first place? Why are the bays not just this? Like, if Hasbro is capable of doing something like this, I know it's a Takatomi molds and stuff, but still. If Hasbro could do this, why was it just not done in the first place? Second, stock combos are bad. They don't do the normal stock combos most of the time. It's just kind of unfortunate. You don't really get the parts you probably want. I guess they're supposed to be competitive or whatever, but like, you can't tell me that when some of the part selections are what they are. Like, come on. They're just throwing stuff together. Third, the molds are actually worse than Takutomi. They are just worse quality. They are more prone to breakage, which is unfortunate. And fourth is just the price. Like, this is the main reason, honestly. Why are Pro Series bays like $20+ when in Japan they marketed like, so we're still in GT, right? These bays were like half the cost when they came out in Japan, day one. Over 3 years later, we're getting them now, and they're double the price or more than they were back then. Listen, I get inflation has been a thing, but like, it's not to that level. Why are these so expensive when they're just like reusing the molds? Worse quality. They're old as hell. Why? Like, there's no reason for them to be so expensive. Just go buy the originals. Even if you order a Takutomi Bay from like the GT era, it's probably cheaper. Unless it's like, okay, sure, something like, oh, Knockout Odin, it's hard to get, or Prime Apocalypse, it's locked in a set. That's literally like the only times I can understand getting Pro Series. It's like, I guess if A, you just can't order Takutomi Bays, or B, maybe it is something that's actually pretty expensive and you just want a certain part, but you'd have to buy, something more expensive to get it and you don't want to, and Pro Series actually ends up being the cheaper option. Sure. That's literally the only reason, though. I guess that's another thing, is just like kind of how old these things are. Like, we're in GT still. GT finished like nearly 3 years ago at this point. Like, it's pretty dated, I would say. And we're still getting GT stuff for Pro Series. Why? Can't move up to Sparking apparently. It's just not good. I don't like, Pro Series is one of those things where, yeah, it's not like outright horrendous. It's kind of like Evolution, to where it's like, yeah, this is like not as good, but it's like pretty close at least. Although Pro Series has its own issues, and also like they're old, expensive for no reason. It's just kind of a mess, honestly. Like, Hasbro in general, Hasbro Burst is just a mess. Pro Series is generally not worth it unless it's like a very specific scenario for something you don't have. And like the regular Hasbro stuff is literally never worth it. Like, even if you can't buy like Takutomi Bays, unless if you just do not have enough money for Pro Series or Takutomi, which, I understand. Then I guess, like, if you can't save up either, and you really want something, sure. But aside from like that kind of scenario, like, this stuff is just not, like, no. Like, again, there's literally no defense for it. Pro Series is one thing. These are just atrocious, especially in recent years. I'm not wasting my money on them. I bought this 1-2-pack almost 6 years ago. Saw how it looked, but didn't like it, didn't bother, and that was considered one of the best parts of Burst for Hasbro. They're just a massive L. I just want to talk about it a little bit, because I haven't talked about them on the channel since 2017. Yeah, that's all. I just wanted to have a discussion about Hasbro. Let me know in the comments if anyone's still watching. What do you think about Hasbro? I decided not to go all in depth on whatever else, all the stats or whatever. I'm not here to do that. I'm just here to clown on them, honestly. They just suck. That's it. Hasbro bays, they're terrible. I think this has been said like a billion times, but I guess I just wanted to mention it because I have not mentioned Hasbro like on this channel in forever. So, might as well clown on them for Halloween. Yeah. Could not imagine anything scarier than Hasbro Burst. So I'm like, perfect Halloween video. I guess I'm doing a Halloween video. Sure, why not? I didn't have to, but I just felt like it, honestly. Yeah, that's all for this video, though. So yeah, thanks for watching, and bye-bye.